Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to give you that focused analysis of current affairs, specifically tailored for your UPSC exam preparation.
That's right.
Today, we're digging into the material from May 8th, 2025. This is part one. And just a heads up, some of these topics might sound familiar if you've been following along. Think of it as good revision.
Absolutely. Building on previous knowledge is key.
We've got quite a range today, haven't we? Everything from, well, biodiversity using poetry to space, climate models.
Healthcare, ancient history, even dam safety and defense updates. It's a broad sweep, very relevant for aspirants.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. And hey, if you find this helpful for your prep, do give us a like and subscribe. It really helps us out.
Definitely. Okay, where do we start?
Let's begin with something, well, quite unusual. Using classical poems to understand the decline of the Yangtze Finless Porpoise.
Ah, yes, this was fascinating. The Yangtze Finless Porpoise, it's the world's only known freshwater porpoise, you know?
And critically endangered, according to the IUCN. That's a really serious status.
It is. It echoes the fate of the Beiji dolphin in the same river, which was declared functionally extinct. A stark warning.
So what's this about poetry? How does that help?
Well, Chinese scientists got creative. They analyzed poetry, mainly from the Tang Dynasty onwards, so over 1,000 years of literature.
Wow.
Yeah, looking for mentions of the porpoise to map its historical range and perhaps its abundance.
That's a really novel way to track biodiversity trends, isn't it? Using cultural records like that.
It really is an intersection of humanities and ecology. It gives a perspective, a longer-term view that maybe traditional surveys can't capture alone.
So remind us about the porpoise itself. Key facts for our listeners.
Right. Habitat. Exclusively the Yangtze. Unique traits. Often described as having this sort of mischievous smile, very intelligent, some say gorilla-like intelligence. Ecologically, it's a vital indicator species. Its health reflects the river's health.
And physically.
Small, relatively slow-moving, and crucially, they don't migrate. They stick to their part of the river.
Which makes them really vulnerable to local problems, like pollution or habitat damage.
Precisely. That lack of migration is a critical factor. Any issue in one area can hit that local population hard. The poetry might offer clues about how widespread they used to be.
Interesting. Okay, let's shift from freshwater rivers to the Cosmos, NASA's IXPE mission.
Right, the Imaging X-ray Polarimetry Explorer.
This is about its findings on X-ray emissions from black hole jets, focusing on BL Lacertae.
Exactly. IXTE is special because it's the first satellite that can measure the polarization of X-ray light. It's a joint mission, NASA and the Italian Space Agency, launched back in December 2021.
And polarization tells us what exactly in this context?
It tells us about the alignment of the light waves. For these incredibly energetic jets coming from blazars, which are basically active galactic nuclei with jets pointed right at us.
Like BL Lacertae in the Lacerta constellation.
Yes. For blazars like BL Lacertae, which is super variable and bright, measuring X-ray polarization helps figure out how those X-rays are generated deep within the jet.
Okay, and there were competing theories, weren't there?
Two main ones. One involved high-energy protons, which would predict highly polarized X-rays. The other involved electrons, predicting weaker polarization.
And IXPE found
Weakly polarized X-rays, no more than 7.6% polarization.
Wow.
But interestingly, at the same time, the optical light coming from the blazar was highly polarized up to 47.5%.
That's a huge difference. So that points towards the electron model.
Strongly suggest it, yes. The most likely mechanism is something called Compton scattering, where superfast electrons in the jet collide with lower energy photons like infrared light and boost them up to X-ray energies. This finding really helps us understand the physics inside these extreme environments.
Fascinating stuff. All right, from the universe back down to Earth, and specifically India's role in space. India's hosting GLEX 2025.
Yes, the 12th Global Space Exploration Summit. Big news.
Happening in New Delhi, May 7th to 9th, 2025. And the theme sounds quite ambitious.
Reaching New Worlds, a space exploration renaissance. It emphasizes innovation, inclusivity, and international cooperation.
Hosting this is quite a statement about India's position in the global space community, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It signals a shift moving towards being a major international player and collaborator in space exploration. It's jointly organized by the International Astronautical Federation, IAF, ISRO, and the Astronautical Society of India, ASI.
The IAF, that's the big international body, right? Founded back in 51.
That's the one. Over 500 members now from nearly 80 countries, agencies, companies, universities. Their motto is connecting at all space people.
And their vision?
A spacefaring world cooperating for the benefit of humanity. GLEX is one of their key platforms for fostering that cooperation.
So a big opportunity for India to showcase its capabilities and forge new partnerships.
Definitely. Networking, collaboration potential, it's very important as space missions get more complex and costly.
Okay, let's move from space to the oceans. There's a new model for estimating oceanic carbon export using satellite data.
Yes, developed by researchers at MBIRI, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, and Florida State University. It's called the Lagrangian Growth-Advection Model.
Sounds technical. Break it down for us.
Okay, so Lagrangian basically means it tracks individual parcels of water as they move. Think of following a specific patch of water. Advection is just the movement of that water. And growth refers to changes in what's in the water, mainly phytoplankton.
So it follows the water and the tiny plants within it.
Exactly. It maps how phytoplankton bloom and, crucially, how the carbon they absorb gets transported down into the deep ocean, especially useful in areas like the California Current, where you have lots of upwelling and productivity.
What's new about this approach compared to older models?
A few things. It specifically accounts for the time lag, the delay between photosynthesis at the surface and carbon actually sinking. It also incorporates zooplankton grazing and the natural succession of different phytoplankton types. It doesn't just rely on a snapshot of ocean color.
And has it been tested?
Yes, validated against real-world deep-sea carbon measurements, like data from Station M. And it seems to explain some of those sudden pulses of carbon sinking that older models couldn't really account for.
Which is important because...
Because the ocean absorbing CO2, the whole biological pump, is absolutely critical for regulating Earth's climate. Better models mean better understanding and potentially better predictions of this vital carbon sink.
Makes sense. Okay, changing tack again to a very practical, citizen-focused initiative. The government's cashless treatment scheme for road accident victims.
Yes, the scheme for 2025. This is a nationwide rollout.
What are the key features? Who is eligible?
Basically, anyone injured in a motor vehicle accident on any public road in India, they can get cashless treatment at approved hospitals.
Is there a limit?
Yes. The benefit is capped at 1.5 lakh rupees, ours 1.5 lakh. And the coverage is for the immediate aftermath, up to 7 days after the accident.
And who's managing all this?
The National Health Authority, the NHA, is the main coordinating agency. They'll work with police, hospitals, and the state health agencies.
So a central body, but state-level involvement too.
Right. The state road safety councils will be the nodal agencies within each state or UT handling the implementation on the ground.
I see. And there's oversight.
Yes, a 17-member steering committee, chaired by the Road Transport Secretary, has been set up to monitor the whole thing. It aims to provide a crucial safety net, removing immediate financial barriers to urgent medical care.
Definitely a significant public health measure. Okay, from current policy back into deep time, evidence of ancient wildfires, Palaeofires, found in the Godavari Basin.
That's right. Dating back to the Permian period, we're talking, what, 250 million years ago?
Incredible timescales. So what are Palaeofires and why study them?
They're essentially the fossil record of ancient fires preserved in rock layers. Studying them tells us about past vegetation, past climates, even how coal formed. This study actually looked across a huge time span, from the late Silurian way back up to the Quaternary, our current period.
How do they study them? What methods?
A whole suite of techniques. Palaeofires analysis, Raman spectroscopy, rock-evil pyrolysis, FTIR spectroscopy. Basically, ways to look at microscopic organic stuff and fossil charcoal in the rocks.
And what did they find?
They identified different types of organic particles, bits of plants, actual charcoal from fires, Palaeofire charcoal or PAL-CH, and charcoal that had been weathered or moved around, oxidized charcoal, OXCH.
Okay.
A key finding was being able to tell the difference between charcoal that formed right there in situ versus charcoal that was washed or blown in from somewhere else, ex situ.
Why does that distinction matter?
It helps understand how coal deposits formed. Was the fire in the peat swamp that became coal, or did charcoal just get washed into it? They also saw patterns related to sea level changes. More preserved charcoal when sea levels were low, more dispersed, oxidized stuff when levels were high.
Interesting. And does the atmosphere back then play a role?
Very likely. The Permian had much higher oxygen levels than today, which would have made the world, well, much more flammable. more frequent, intense wildfires. They also noted the Raniganj coalfield as another place in India with early evidence of these ancient fires in peat environments.
And the relevance today, beyond just history.
Understanding these ancient fire cycles helps us understand modern carbon cycling, how fires impact it, and how carbon gets stored long term. That has implications for thinking about climate change mitigation now.
Connecting the deep past to present concerns. Speaking of present concerns, the Kaleshwaram Lift Irrigation Project in Telangana.
Yes, the National Dam Safety Authority, the NDSA, has reported finding irreparable damage to 3 barrages in the project.
That sounds serious. Remind us about KLP. It's massive, isn't it?
It is a huge multi-purpose irrigation project on the Godavari River, designed to irrigate something like 45 lakh acres across 20 districts.
It's often called the world's largest multi-stage lift irrigation project.
That's correct. It lifts water in multiple stages over significant heights. It draws water from the Godavari near its confluence with the Pranahita River.
And the Pranahita itself is formed by
The confluence of the Warda, Painganga, and Wanganga rivers. So a major river system feeding into this project.
the scale is just hard to grasp.
Yeah.
How big is the network?
About 7 links, 28 packages. The main channel is around 500 kilometers, and the canal network is over 1,800 kilometers long. The target water delivery is enormous, 240 TMC.
So finding irreparable damage in key structures is a major issue.
A very significant concern for its future operation and, of course, safety.
All right, let's move to human development indicators. India's ranking in the 2025 Human Development Report.
India ranked 130th out of 193 countries in the latest report from the UNDP.
And the report uses the HDI, the Human Development Index. What goes into that again?
It's a composite index looking at 3 key dimensions: health, measured by life expectancy; education, measured by expected and mean years of schooling; and standard of living, measured by gross national income per capita.
The title of this year's report focuses on AI.
Yes, a matter of choice. People and possibilities in the age of AI. It highlights AI's growing impact. But it also flags a worrying global trend: HDI progress has stalled overall.
Stalled. Why?
The report mentions rising trade tensions, debt issues, and concerns about jobless industrialization as contributing factors. Iceland topped the list this year. South Sudan was at the bottom.
So where does India stand within that picture? Rank 130? Any improvement?
Actually, yes. While the rank is 130, India's HDI value improved slightly from 0.676 in 2022 to 0.685 in 2023.
Okay.
This keeps India in the medium human development category, but it's inching closer to the high category. And importantly, the report notes India's significant HDI improvement since 1990 has been faster than the global average and the South Asian average.
How do we compare to our neighbors?
China, Sri Lanka, and Bhutan are ranked higher. Bangladesh is on par with India this year. Nepal, Myanmar, and Pakistan are ranked lower.
Any specific areas of improvement mentioned for India?
Yes. Increases in life expectancy, now 72 years, expected years of schooling, average years of schooling, and GNI per capita all saw improvements.
And the AI connection.
India gets a specific mention as the only low or middle income country in the top 10 of the global AI index. Plus, it seems India is doing better at retaining its domestic AI talent.
Interesting intersection there.
Okay.
Nearly done. Let's head to the Western Ghats. Concerns about Bimgad Wildlife Sanctuary.
Yes, conservationists are worried about unchecked public trespassing in this ecologically sensitive area in Karnataka's Belgaum district.
Bimgad, declared a sanctuary back in 2011, named after the fort built by Shivaji.
Right, and it's a really important connecting piece in the Western Ghats landscape. It borders Dandeli, Bhagwan Mahavir, Mala-Manutravali, and Mastay sanctuaries and parks.
So a critical corridor.
Very much so. It has varied terrain, hills, valleys, and it's the source of several rivers like the Tulari, Malaprabha, and Matay.
And it has some unique features. I remember something about bats.
The Barrapede Caves. Yes, they are believed to be the only known breeding site for the endangered Rotten's free-tailed bat. Protecting those caves is crucial.
What about the general habitat and other wildlife?
The vegetation is mostly tropical and subtropical moist broadleaf forest. Think Malabar teak, rosewood, lots of medicinal plants too. And fauna includes endangered species like the sloth bear, pangolin, and the black panther.
Black panther. Wow.
Yeah, quite elusive. Also Malabar giant squirrels, gar, sambar deer, lots of birds. And interestingly, large rock formations there are breeding grounds for the king cobra.
So trespassing is a serious threat to this fragile ecosystem.
A very serious threat, disrupting wildlife and potentially damaging sensitive habitats like those caves.
Okay, final topic for this deep dive. Strengthening the Indian Navy. The induction of INS Tamal.
Yes, the second advanced warship of its class, inducted amidst, well, the ongoing regional tensions.
This is one of the frigates from the deal with Russia, right? An upgraded Krivak, the third class.
Correct. State-of-the-art stealth-guided missile frigate. INS Torchel was the first one, commissioned late last year, December 2024.
And Tamal is significant because
It marks the end of importing major warships of this type. It's the last one built in Russia under this deal. The next two, Triput and Tavasya, are being built right here in India at Goa Shipyard Limited through technology transfer.
a big step for self-reliance, Nirvar Bharat in defense.
Exactly. It highlights India's growing capability in designing and building complex warships domestically.
Tell us about INS Tamal's capabilities.
It's designed for blue water operations, meaning long-range deployment. It's 125 meters long, displaces 3,900 tons. It's a mix of Russian design and Indian tech, about 26% Indian components.
Lead, range, weapons.
Top speed around 30 knots, range about 3,000 kilometers. Weapons-wise, it carries BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles and the Still surface-to-air missile system vertically launched.
Anti-submarine capabilities.
Yes, torpedoes, rocket launchers, and it can operate a multi-role helicopter. Plus, crucially, it incorporates radar-evading stealth technology.
So, a significant boost to the Navy's power projection and sea control capabilities.
Definitely. Advanced firepower, survivability through stealth, and a symbol of increasing indigenous capability.
And that wraps up our deep dive for today, covering the key current affairs from May 8th, 2025, Part 1, relevant for your UPSC focus.
We've covered a lot of ground. Biodiversity insights from poetry, cosmic discoveries, India's space ambitions, ocean carbon modeling.
New healthcare schemes, ancient wildfires, dam safety issues, human development rankings, conservation alerts, and naval enhancements. Quite the mix.
And as you said, some of these themes we've touched on before, showing their ongoing relevance.
It really is striking, isn't it, how interconnected everything seems. Environmental science links to history, technology links to development, security links to international relations.
It paints a complex picture, the kind of integrated understanding that's really valuable, not just for the exams, but for understanding India's trajectory.
It certainly makes you think about the ripple effects across different domains. So if you found this analysis useful for your UPSC journey, please do hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives.
We'll be back with more soon. Keep up the preparation.